Hello, my name is Alejandro Gonzalez, and this is Lab 3-1, Data Reduction Using Fuzzy Matching. So here we have this Excel workbook, and we are going to be analyzing it. And so we have two sheets, one employees, one vendors. And so we want to begin by just making sure that both of these sheets are full and that there's no empty fields. So it looks like employees is good. We're gonna scroll up. That looks good. Vendors looks good as well. Perfect. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start with the employees tab. And we're gonna start by clicking in here, and then we're going to select the entire data table. We'll do that by pressing Control A. Now that we have it selected, we want to format it as a table. So on the home, we're going to go to the styles, and then we are going to press format as table. And any style will do. So we're just going to go with this one right here. And we do want to make sure that our table has headers. So we're going to just go ahead and click OK. Perfect. All right. And then now what we want to do is we want to go to this table design and we want to edit the table name. So we're going to go all the way to the left to where it says properties, and then we are going to rename this table employees. Perfect. And we just click out of it and it'll go ahead and save. And now we are going to repeat this process, but with the vendors. So we're going to press this right here. We're going to do Control A one more time, just like the whole thing. Format as table. We're going to use the same design that we were using earlier. Make sure that our table has headers. Okay, perfect. And then just like how we did with employees, we're going to go ahead and rename this vendors tab to vendors. Okay, now that we have that, we just want to go ahead and make sure that we save it down. It's saved, and I am going to save it to this desktop. Perfect, and now we are good to start on the next couple of steps. Okay, so we actually have to rename it as well when you resaved it. So we're going to go ahead and do that one more time. Let's take that to the desktop, and we are going to name it Fuzzy Dash Tables. Okay, save, perfect. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to perform data reduction. And so we're going to start by going to this vendors tab, and we are going to click in the drop down where it says vendor sense. I'm going to click that. We are going to click this where it says select all. So I just deselected everything. And we're going to only worry and focus on this 2019. So we're going to press 2019. Okay, perfect. So we have the information that we want. So now what we're going to do is we're going to click inside. We're going to press Control A twice. It selects all the information. Now we're going to press Control C to copy it. And so now we're going to go to a new worksheet with just this information. And we're going to go ahead and paste that in there by using Control V. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that all of this is straightened out. It's all nice and neat. and make sure that there's enough space. Okay, just missing this vendor. Okay, perfect. And what we want to do is that we want to rename the sheet. So we're going to go ahead and rename the sheet to Vendors 2019. Perfect, we have that saved. And now what we want to do is we want to have this data and rename it as a table. So when we moved from the vendors to the vendors 2019 tab, it didn't move over as a table. So we're going to go ahead and do that, which we also already know how to do. So we're going to press Control A, select all of the data that we have, format as a table, and then use that same formatting. Where's the data for your table? We're going to go ahead and confirm that our table has headers. Press OK. Perfect. So now that we have this, we're going to go to the table design, and then we're going to rename our table to vendors 2019. Okay, perfect. So we have that saved on there. And now what we want to do is now we want to resave the file one more time, but we're going to add 2019 to it. And we want to save it to the desktop. All right, and then with that, we are good to move on to the next step. All right, so now we are ready to actually use the fuzzy lookup. And the reason we're using the fuzzy lookup is to find any similarities that we may see with some abbreviations. So for example, ST would be street, RD, road. And so while it may be easier for a human to detect these, for a computer, it's a bit harder. And so what we're trying to do is use this lookup to find any similarities. So we're going to go ahead and start by pressing this fuzzy lookup. Click on the add-in, and we have this dialog box that appears. And so what we want to do in the left table is we want to select vendors 2019. In the right table, we're going to go ahead and put employees. Perfect. Okay. And so now what we want to do is we have this left column and the right columns. And this is what it's going to look for. So for the left columns, we want to click vendor billing address. Should be this first one. And then on the right column, we want to select employee street address. So we want to make sure that um, the computer is looking at these two addresses and comparing them. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to click this join. Okay, and so then now we go down to this match columns and we see that we have billing and employee street address. And so now that we have the inputs, now we want to work on what we actually want for the output. So for the output, we want to uncheck everything except a couple of criteria. So we don't need vendor ID. We do need name. We do not need type or since. We do need contact. Billing address we need. Billing city we need. Actually, no, we don't. So billing city we do. No, all we need is billing address. We don't need city. We don't need state. We do need zip. So we're gonna have that in there. Phone, we do not need. Employee ID, we do not need. Um, So we have here first name, last name. We don't need gender. We don't need hire date. Street address, we do. City, state, zip. And then we do need similarity. We do not need phone, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we have all of these. So for vendors 2019, vendor name's good. We have the contact in here, the billing address, the zip was good too. Then employees, first name, last name, street address, the zip, and then the similarity. Okay, for the number of matches, we want 1, and then we're going to keep the similarity threshold as was. So that's good. And then now what we want to do is we want to go to a new worksheet tab. And here, um, we're going to rename this as fuzzy match. Perfect. And then we want to make sure we press in cell A1. And then here's where we're going to put our output. So we're going to press go. Perfect. All right. So we now have our information and we're good to go. Okay, so now that we have all of our outputs, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we can see everything. Just doing process. Okay, perfect. So now that we have all our information, we noticed that the most important line is the similarity, which is what the fuzzy lookup has done. So for the first couple of ones, it looks like it's 0. Up until right about here where we find this one, the vendor name D Electrics, and we find 0.7 similarity, and these last two. So what we want to do next is we want to format it as a table, just so it's a little bit easier to look at. So we're going to press inside, we're going to press Control A, it's going to select all of it, and then we're going to go to Home, Format as Table, and then we are going to make it a table, make sure my table has headers. Okay, and so now what we want to do is we want to make sure that for the similarity, we only have selected items that do have a little bit of similarity. So we're going to select that. And so we see here that we have 3 different lines that match with the so-called similarity. So we can go ahead and also highlight these. And this is just going to show that is coming from 2 different tables. So as you remember, we had a left column and a right column. And so we can see that this employee street address, this Marconi Road, is very similar to this Marconi R&D over here. And then the Aspen Road as well So that is something that as an auditor we should look into more as to why Zaid has these entities that match with two different vendors. Um, and yeah, and that about wraps up the lab that we have. We're gonna go ahead and save it just so we have everything. And yeah, thank you very much. This has been the lab 3-1. Thank you very much.